Lauren Snell here, and welcome back to highintensitybusiness.com, the podcast where we discuss high-intensity strength training and provide you with the tools, the tactics, and the strategies to help you grow your strength training business. If you prefer to read, you can download the PDF transcript for this episode over on the blog post for this podcast on highintensitybusiness.com. This is episode 364. And today's guest is Skylar Tanner. Skylar is an exercise physiologist and owner of Smart Strength in Austin, Texas. Skylar and his team at Smart Strength focus on helping clients gain strength, boost energy, improve mobility, and balance through evidence-based strength training. Welcome, Skylar. Great to see you again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Do you know what?
Let's see, it was about February actually last year when I was last on. So it's been a while. Yeah.
And I know we've been trying to obviously get something booked for a while, but it's hard because you're really busy with your business, which is amazing to hear. And obviously I'm pleased about that. And then when you, I think you had a spot come up, didn't you? And you looked into my calendar and there wasn't any availability, and you assume that's because I'm being successful.
Well, you're managing your time really well. You got two businesses. So yeah, I mean, it's and all of mine is always short notice. It's a client late canceling or something like the whole reason this exists is because I had to cancel a good chunk of my day just to take care of my son, which really just, he's my oldest son. So it's not like I need to be on top of him.
Yeah. I hope he gets well soon. And
it's just been ripping through. It looked like a damn. The roster yesterday when I went to go pick up my daughter, because she's in the same sort of portable as my third son. The roster in his classroom, the stomach bug's been going through everybody. They have 11 or 12 kids, and only 3 were there. All of them were absent with some sort of stomach bug. I mean, It was just it's like a mortality table. Just
wow, yeah, that's incredible. By the way, this is episode 365. So not 364. Just need to make that clear.
Got it.
Little mistake there on my part. So what I first want to ask you about is your new space, because you've recently moved, new location.
Right.
Tell us about that.
So let's see. When I was talking to you in February, it was like sort of on the radar. We had been eyeing in the center that we were in, this larger space behind us that used to be one of these shops where kids can go and make ceramics for their parents, or women could do wine and make pots or cups or stuff like that. And of course, as it turns out, you can't do virtual ceramics during COVID, so it went out of business. Now the woman had been there for 25 years, and she'd sort of been using it like kind of as a quasi-retirement thing, even though she had owned it, sold it, came back when the other person, I guess, couldn't make it work, and so she was just real part-time with it. And it was a space about 500 square feet larger than we had at the time. And so last May, I think it was, we made the move. We had this open space, concrete floor. So we laid down some carpet, fresh paint, replaced some counters, got all that, bought some more equipment, moved in, and have been running that ever since. And since then, we've also added a few more pieces, and the goal is to get another 2, hopefully by the end of the year.
So 500 square feet
extra. So no, it went from 940 square feet to just not quite 1,400 square feet, right in that range.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a nice increase. Yeah. And how much of that is like workout space?
Oh, most of it. So the old space had almost a dead space in the hall, where it was the waiting area. And then it had a sealed kind of office, like a second little room.
Yeah. So I remember.
So much more of it is a training floor. And so we have kind of like a little office nook. And then I've just recently, I need to do another video of sort of where the space is right now, kind of created a quarantine waiting area that forces people to stare at a TV that's just cycling, sort of pushing and upselling our trainers and their experience, and then reminding us to leave Google reviews with a QR code, and
nice.
Also showing the workout of the week that we will have cycling, depending on where just depending on what week it is, things like that. And then we're about to have a Discover Strength clinical rotation, and so we're going to advertise that on the TV as well, and just get clients ready to have Matt in our space.
And can you do me a favor and shoot a tour video?
Yeah, absolutely.
For this blog post?
Absolutely.
And I'll just embed it on the blog post so people can see what we're talking about. We talk about the studio and the machines and stuff.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And what machines do you have now? What equipment do you
Okay,
have?
so I've got a Carol bike. I've got a MedX prone leg curl.
No.
No, I know. There's some
I
funny.
didn't realize that.
Yeah, I got a MedX prone leg.
It's because all Skylar talks about is this MedX prone leg
But
curl.
it's the best. It's purple. It's amazing. Okay,
You
so
know,
we got
I was gonna. You know, you stole that from me. You aware of that?
the prone leg curl.
Yeah, I was
You were
interested in that. And
You
then
were going to buy
like
it
all
from the
over
United
it.
States. Here's why.
Yeah.
Here's why.
Yeah.
Because Bill Casto, who we're not entirely convinced isn't Drew Bay, they sound the same on the phone. A year ago when I sold my Super Slow Systems leg curl, he said, "Hey, I've got you on the top of my list. The first prone leg curl that comes up, you're it." And it had been almost a year, and that popped up, and I just gently reminded him of what he had told me. And so he said, "You're right. I give you 24 hours to confirm that you're buying this." And then I reached out to a client. I was talking to a client about it. He said, "I'll float you."
I love that you have clients who are willing to do that. I mean, that's not the first time, right? When you first started up yourself, you had clients.
Oh, I still have. I mean, when I made this move to this new space, I have longtime clients pay 3 years in advance to give us the moving war chest.
It's just incredible.
I'm on the hook to them. They're not my 3 years of creditors, but they're consistent and they've been around long enough that even though they're in their 70s, that they're in pretty good kip.
How do you think? What do you think enables you to build such good relationships that people are willing to do that and to invest in you, in your space, in the machines? Like, what is that, and how can we replicate that?
You can't.
18 years.
No. I mean, but you can have people who are really experienced and they're just like technically proficient and they're not good at building relationships. I sincerely believe that part of it is the trauma that I had as a kid moving at like critical points. And so feeling like the outsider, and I'm already wanting to be a helpful person as it is. And so having to figure out how to like make friends and be relational and agreeable, but at the same time, having a spine and kind of all of this stew. And also just providing service, like trying to over deliver on this stuff. And when I try to make it, I don't know why, it's just like building a relationship, being competent. Don't take yourself seriously, but take what you do seriously. Jim Keen, he's so funny. He always likes to say in his Midwest accent, he goes, "Hey, what I have can't be taught." And there's a grain of, there's a little bit of that. Like I can piece it out. And we know this with trying to upskill employees or convey things to clients, and you go, "Here's what it is." And you have the image in your head and you try to explain it as fully as possible. You say, "I want something that cooks food," and you have an oven in your head. And then the client comes back with 2 sticks and a rock, or the trainer comes back with 2 sticks and a rock. And you go, "That does cook food. That's not what I had in my mind." Right. So some of that is just trying to get, I don't know. I am good at small. Actually, it drives my wife crazy. My wife hates small talk. My wife, she would rather like stick a knife in her eyeball than have small talk. Whereas I'm all about small talk. Like I will chat, run my mouth.
You're very relational, actually. You're very, very warm, welcoming.
Yeah.
Like great at building rapport. Like that's really evident.
My mom was good at that.
Right. Yeah. Same here. Yeah. I'm similar, to be honest. And it's interesting because I had a really awkward meeting recently with one of our clients who is a lawyer, and I have a therapist, and I was talking to him about it because I was like, this interaction went really badly, and it actually took me out for like a whole 2 days. Like it's all I thought about. Did I do something wrong? Because I have a bit of a people pleaser bias to me.
Sure.
And then I got over it after like a week, and I thought I'll bring this up in a therapy session because we can deconstruct it and it'll be good. Sure. And anyway, in a nutshell, it sounds like I was trying to build a relationship and he was not interested in that.
Right.
And to give people some context, I was trying to ask questions about his experience as a client, and he just didn't want to have that conversation, and it was just incredibly awkward and tense. And there's more to it, and I won't.
No, but that's a great point. And one of the things I'm endlessly trying to do with when I'm bringing somebody in as a client, I'm trying to weed out the people. I'm trying to weed out the people who want to control the session. Like I would never try to micromanage the surgeon doing my colonoscopy. Right. I'm going to talk about the options I have for imaging for, because remember my mom's primary cancer was colon cancer. And so I have to be on top of this, but I'm going to have a discussion and think about treatment plans or not treatment. I don't have any cancer. But sort of, hey, here are my options for imaging or sort of following up on this. What is actually the best for me? I'm thinking about this because I don't want to be invasive. And, and then he can be like, well, this, that, the other thing. But then at the end of the day, I'm hiring the expert for a reason, right? And so I'm trying to always convey that to somebody coming in like, hey, if you could do this on your own, you'd already be doing it. And I don't mean that in a dismissive way, but I mean that just statistically, the people who can lift weights by themselves are already lifting weights. They've already prioritized it. They have it in their time. And you might know how to do it, but without the accountability, you're probably not going to do it. So we are the experts. We're going to take care of everything. You're just here to show up, get ready to work really hard and give us candid feedback so we can iterate the process as we go along and deliver you the best workout possible in these 30 minutes. If somebody just can't let go, or they want to try to micromanage, we don't want them in our space. So I'm always trying to filter that. And we need candid feedback, right? But I was telling this to Zach, our new trainer. I was saying, look, like you can say, and actually you asked this of Luke. If somebody says, I don't want to train legs, I do a lot of Pilates. I'm saying you're going to train legs for all of these reasons that you can't get in Pilates. Now, we have a lot of exercises that can address that, but we're going to address it in some way. So if you don't like options A, B, and C, then we need to find D, E, or F, and then we're going to progress it, right? But you don't get to come in and say, hey, I need your help, and I'm going to tell you exactly how you and your expertise are going to help me.
Yeah.
It's more of we're going to have a discussion.
Yeah. No, I like that.
And notice when I'm saying that, I'm not saying it in a way that is, and this is some of the experience too, right? This is like, I don't have imposter syndrome. It's almost like good luck finding somebody as knowledgeable as me. And it's not cocky. It's just like, look, this is how it works. The price is the price. The process is the process. And we have lifelong fans because they get results. And we want to show you what we do because that gets the results. But if you're not interested, if you're interested in trying to sort of control the session, then we're not going to be the place for you.
You remind me of, have you read Cal Newport's book, So Good They Can't Ignore You? Read that?
Yes. Yep.
You are that. You have so much career capital that you're so rare and valuable that it's just reaping rewards for you now. And it's so cool to see.
And it is very cool to see. No, you're right. Yeah. And I'm very cognizant of that, how there's a point where there's this almost desert in the middle and you're going like, does this count? Am I doing it? Am I ever going to be good at this? And I can see this in Zach, who's our newest employee. He's our youngest employee. He's 26, 27. And he's a great guy. And he's super knowledgeable. I mean, he's taught exercise physiology lab at University of Texas at Austin. Oh, wow. Like he's working on a master's degree. Like he has, compared to somebody his age, he has a lot of educational background and experience, but he doesn't have enough reps saying, I think you were talking about this changing Owen was talking about this changing one of their core values from customer service to communication, because the idea of saying, it's more important to say, here's why we're going to do what we're going to do, than it is to say, than it is to tell or to have the rapport where the client says, hey, I want to do more of this. Like we talked about, I sent that video or the audio of how do we do a quarterly like check-in with a client. If I say, hey, what you want to work on your shoulders more? What do you want to do? And they say, hey, I want to work on my legs more. It's like, cool, great. We're going to put that together and we're going to do a workout. It's still going to be a smart strength workout. It's still going to be total body, right? Like you have given me feedback and I can take that feedback and make a great workout for you, but you're not like doing the programming yourself. You're not dictating. I say is you can help dictate and build the content of the workout, but you cannot dictate the structure of the workout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that I think is very important.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Unless there's an orthopedic issue. Let's be clear. You're not training through pain. But that better be like, that's the only reason. If I pull a trainer's card and I don't see certain categories of movement, I'm like, where are they hurt? Because otherwise it should be on here.
Mm-hmm.
Or did I just pull the week before a marathon and that's why they're not training their legs? What is going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you. So Skylar recorded an audio of him demonstrating the stay interview before a marker workout or like a strength test workout to monitor progress. And it's just 3 or 4 questions, and he went through the whole thing. Like you basically role played it, and I thought it was so good that we've actually implemented it. We updated our existing process because it just made sense. It's way more efficient.
It just needs to be quick too. It's a part of the conversation. Like you want to do it. And that's part of the reason we moved to a marker workout rather than some sort of strength test, like out of the sports science world, because clients are still there for a workout.
Yeah.
I think they're still there for a workout.
Bryce made a really good point. It's like, I don't feel like I can do it as a separate thing and say I'm efficient because it's just consuming more client time. And I thought, you make a good point. And then you showed exactly how you do that. Yeah. And anyone who's, listening who's interested, we have that Inside Hit business membership where Skylar let me upload that audio there, so you can actually learn how he runs that stay interview, and it's really smooth and quick.
It's real quick, and obviously I'm acting as if the client it has his answer right off the top of their head, so it can take more than the 47 seconds I went through it in. But the point is, a marker workout is a shorter workout. It's one of the few times we could talk about this too, but I'm actually telling them, you're going to sell out on every exercise. You are going to go to, I can't do another repetition in good form. I'm actually going to go to failure on this workout. Versus within the context of most smart strength workouts, we're not, there might be one exercise that I have them sell out on every workout, and the rest, they're either getting to fatigue or they're going up to the top of the rep range and getting some sort of advanced overload. But I'm not having them, I only want everyone you got, let's go, kind of thing. So it's we could talk maybe.
Why only one exercise they sell out on? I'm just curious. What's the purpose of that?
Okay. So let's step back briefly and talk about this in the context of when we talk about being evidence-based exercise, right? Evidence-based fitness. We can actually go back to my rant that I put on the Instagram. And you look at the preponderance of the literature of people testing this stuff, is that if you're starting a client off brand new, they and the Jameses have done this research, and there's a lot of other people can do 1 or 2 repetitions and have no idea whatsoever how many repetitions they can actually do in a set, right? So they go, you pick up once, try. How many do you think you can do? Oh, 8, and then end up doing 14, right? So in that context, in the beginning, taking somebody to muscular failure or task failure, which we'll talk about Al Coleman's distinction, and it's an important one, to task failure is all part about learning what actual task failure or being near failure feels like. And that's why getting beginners or novices to failure produces great results, better results, up to 50% better improvement when you sort of do a meta-analysis. And yes, I know the Jameses will kvetch about meta-analyses, but let's say for the sake of argument that all the researchers are acting in good faith, and they're measuring to the highest fidelity that our humanness can approximate with going to failure. That's probably because most people don't know what actual getting close to fatigue feels like. They're not familiar with hard work. So in order for them to become tuned into what it feels like to be close to fatigue, where the most effective repetitions are, then we need to go to fatigue, right? We need to get there.
Yeah.
But then in the middle of the long term, just getting close produces very similar results to getting all the way. So from in that sense, then you look at a lot of the research like Wayne Westcott has done using the ACSM guidelines or things of this nature. It's like old Darden stuff where, we have a rep range we want somebody to be in. If they get above that, I'm giving them some sort of advanced overload because they've had a great workout, and I'm increasing the weight next time to hopefully knock them back into that rep range to fatigue or close to fatigue when the form starts getting really squirrely. And if they get all the way, if they go outside of that rep range, great. Or if they don't, if they get the fatigue or they go outside of the rep range, I often say, if you get the fatigue, great. If you go on if the next repetition fatigues, great. If it doesn't, great, because you've gone to the top of the range.
Yeah.
So one of 2 things are going to happen. We're either going to have the maximum stimulus, the maximum number of effective repetitions, because as I like to point out, there is no more stimulus past the Rubicon of fatigue. Blasting clients with 27 repetitions past failure or whatever doesn't seem to produce the results that you would expect it to. Just getting to failure is huge, and doing that consistently week after week after week and keeping the ball rolling. I mean, we've all done this where we say, hey, if getting the fatigue did this for us, what's beyond fatigue? And the answer is a lot of soreness and dread, but not tripling of results. You know, and that is, as long as they're moving with control, we don't assign a cadence. We just, or we'll tell them speed up, slow down, depending. Unless they're starting off with us, they do a pure super slow protocol.
Yep.
And then in the middle of the long term, it's descriptive. Control the turnarounds. Don't let gravity take the weight. Don't use momentum to lift the weight. And whatever the rep speed is the rep speed. It's keep it clean or it doesn't count is actually a Doug Holland line. And so we kind of work off of that.
Mm-hmm. So
that's why. That's
question.
Yeah, that's the question. That's why. To nice little cookie here. The reason we don't go to fatigue on every single exercise is that once people know how to get close to fatigue, and we have a history with their performance over time, I'd rather progress the weight on a more consistent basis and keep the repetition of a high quality than chase fatigue at all costs. Because it just doesn't seem to produce better results in the middle of the long term. And the middle of the long term, those are you want middle of the long term clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So just getting back to your studio and the machines you have, I'm curious, why did you get rid of the super slow leg curl?
I didn't even tell you all the equipment I have, but I'll tell you why.
But I'm curious about that in particular, and then we can
because unless you're doing pure super slow with it, it's a terrible machine.
Oh,
it's a fantastic machine for super slow. It was built by Ken to do super slow.
Yeah.
But if you deviate from 10-10, even a little bit, the cam is too radical. The transitioning seat becomes too violent, even if you move the 5.5, clients are like, wow, as the thing gets yanked forward. And then you always had to be messing with the crank.
Yeah. Very manual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is why I got rid of it. And also, Owen and I were talking about this, where he said that he has the Medex seated leg curl and the Medex. He had the Medex prone leg curl at the first Live Oak, and he said he felt like he could just get more out of the prone leg curl. And so I said, okay, I'm sold.
Yeah.
And originally I was buying it or seeking it for a client who had muscular dystrophy, so I could pin it up and kind of have a target for her to sort of do a static against. And we could see when she would lose the ability to control one side of her body against a target.
Yeah.
And then she moved to Boston to be near one of her daughters. So it didn't matter anymore, but it still was to do negative accentuated work would be a useful tool because it's just easier to do in a prone position.
Yeah, we just got a few new machines for those interested. We're waiting for them to be delivered, but they should be delivered and built for June, which is really exciting. So we've got the MedX seated leg curls. It's not the prone, but it's a leg curl, which we don't have. MedX hip abduction and adduction, and MedX bicep curl. It's the most important one, obviously.
That's right.
And torso rotation. So we're very excited. I mean, those
love the torso rotation.
You like that one, right?
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah, I mean the
Do you know if it's the old style restraint or the new style restraint?
I don't know actually, to be honest.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Yeah, but I mean, go on, try and ask.
Okay, so the old style restraint, the new style restraint looks like the lumbar. It's got the giant beam, and you can slide the feet forward and backwards, and the knees restraint forward and backwards. The old style restraint is kind of like a crank pull, and so you let me know, and I can tell you.
I think it's the former.
Okay, well then if you've done a lumbar, then you know how to restrain all.
Yeah,
that.
Exactly. Yeah, familiar. We've got the lumbar extension. Yeah, cool. Yeah, and it wasn't. I'm trying to think. The torso rotation wasn't on our must-have list of machines because obliques you can get at with other exercises. So we have with the machines we have a load of other machines already, like Big Five plus a MedX lumbar plus the hammer leg extension, and we have power blocks on the bench. But we had a must-have list that I put together, which was for the remaining. But all those machines weren't available. So we've got on that list were the abduction, adduction, seated leg curl.
And you have a hammer leg extension, right?
We do, yeah. So which I also use for calf raises occasionally because the front is like you can weight up, you can load up one of the sides and hold it, But anyway, so the bicep curl is kind of a bonus, and we got a really good deal because we know the chap, and we negotiated a nice deal there. And the torso rotation was like a bonus, and there's still a few other gaps, but I feel like with what we already have, we have such a good arsenal now.
Yep.
Of really delivering. We already are giving great workouts, but I feel like now we can. So I'm excited. Sorry,
no, you're right. Well,
yeah.
and this is why we wanted the bigger space, because yes, in theory, big 5, big 3, whatever. But it's not much more time to be a little bit more comprehensive.
That's it.
And I think back to Mike Bradley's talk with you about injuries and how people, we walk around on 2 feet, but we tend to get injured in one joint. And just to have those tools, like right now I'm dealing with a woman who has frozen shoulder. She's a long-time client, but she has like every member of her family has had frozen shoulder in both shoulders. Like she has just congenital predisposition to frozen shoulder. And so the ability to do like unilateral pullover and some of these other exercises in a unilateral way would be really difficult it would be really difficult to get her a quality workout without having these tools available to us, so it's like train as much healthy muscle tissue as possible, keep as much muscularity as possible, keep her metabolic rate up as high as possible. So I would coming back full circle. What equipment do I have? Right, walking through the space, and you're gonna see me doing this with my hands. So Carol, MedX pullover, prone leg curl, gluteator,
nice.
MedX leg extension, Fettle, which is a remanufactured hammer strength with some tweaks, Fettle plate loaded adduction, and then we have a Life Fitness G5 cable column, which is a great, like a Swiss Army knife. Medex lumbar, Medex dip, Medex rotary torso, an old ARX Alpha, an old ARX Omni, Nitro pec fiber delt, Nitro row, Medex chest press, Medex lateral raise, and Nitro leg press. And then we have a chin-up bar that's recently been mounted to the ceiling. And
is that the one in your kitchen?
Yeah, it looks like it's the kitchen, right? That's just an extension of the space. But
I see.
Yeah. You'll see in the video. The space just extends into that. And then we've got
so much equipment. I didn't realize you had so much.
And there's room. And I by the end of the year, I want to ditch the Omni, which I've been trying to sell for like 2 years.
Okay.
And then I want to get a Medex torso arm, the new style handles, and maybe a Medex overhead press. And then at some point, a 4-way neck machine, and that could either be a Medex 4-way neck machine, or Dynamic Health and Fitness makes basically a remanufactured with tweaks version of the Avenger 4-way neck. The tweaks allow you to isolate tilting and nodding from the rest of the neck movement. So if this is flexion and this is extension, tilting and nodding is literally just moving at the last possible space and your head. So all the movements up here, the rest of my neck is unmoving. They've set it so you can isolate that.
Why is that important?
When we think about flexion is sternocleidomastoid. These guys right here running all the way down. The movement begins and ends above the collarbone. Neck extension. If you haven't seen Doug's video about how to train your neck at home,
so good.
It's so great. But you get to the point is that you get a lot of these neck extensors that run all the way down to your tailbone, because as I point out to clients, I go lumbar extensors run in 3 layers from your tailbone up to the lower ribs, sort of the middle upper ribs, and then the back of your neck. And similarly, a lot of the neck extensors run all the way down, so it's a more global movement. But you've got these, and I'm forgetting the name of them, Bryce, I apologize. You've got these little tiny pairs of muscles that basically attach the skull to the top of the neck, and so this isolates their movement. And you have some people. What was his name? He used to work with Mark Asanovich. He calls himself the intelligent exercise researcher, and his entire thesis at Virginia Polytech, I think it was Virginia Polytech, was about not Ralph Carpinelli. He's the researcher. Okay. It's another guy who was all about how can you potentially get ahead of concussion prevention. And I know James Steele says no exercise study is ever good enough. But the argument that is being made is that if we can decelerate the head sooner, or with more control, with more eccentric control, then you're going to shake the head around in the skull less. And then the argument also that Doug is making for strengthening the sternocleidomastoid And he's corroborating this against a medical device called the Q collar, which fits around here and it squeezes right kind of at the jugular vein, and it increases a negative pressure gradient of blood into the brain. And I want to say cerebrospinal fluid, but I don't remember that for sure. Mm-hmm. And as a result, your brain isn't just against your skull, it's floating in liquid. So if you have the increased pressure gradient, the brain can't smash around in your skull as quickly because it has a consistent fluid pressure kind of blocking excess movement, versus if you have a lot of fluid that's drained out of your skull, or a reduced fluid load in your skull, then the brain can move more easily within your skull. Doug goes into the anatomy of this in that video. You should really check it out. And the idea
in the show notes.
The idea of having just a really strong neck, period, and then even if you're in an impact sport, wearing a Q collar is just like a nice bonus.
I think this is a good, just very quickly, you did a really good job there explaining that with first principles. But James has made a good point that there's the test. There isn't science to test that. Is that go ahead?
No. James' point is that the study that we want to do is you have one group doing neck work, and you have another group not doing neck work, and it has a large enough size to be statistically significant, and have power to be able for us to say yes, that thing that we did on that intervention actually created the outcome we wanted, which is reduced concussions or head injuries. Those studies are actually being done because then I went and looked and I was like, James is crazy. James is busy playing golf and doing his like VR drumming crap. I am not busy with 4 kids. But really I don't play golf. I don't have another hobby to take me away from my strength training love and obsession. So I dug into it. And there are a number of clinical trials that are actually trying to do what James is saying is hard to do. I believe it's hard to do. He's the researcher. I've only dabbled in it in graduate school, so I know it's not an easy thing to do. But people are trying to answer that question in that way because a lot of people are, as you said, they've made a first principles argument, and in medicine is littered with first principles argument that in the black box of the human body break down.
Right, exactly. Which is why the science is there to test it and to prove it.
Right. We called that lab coding years ago on Lyle McDonald's forum, where people would sort of string together studies. Well, this study shows this, and then this study shows this, and this study shows this. And if you take them together, we should have this outcome, which bodybuilders have done that for years. Before it was biohacking, it was just bodybuilders being bros. Like that's all it was, because all that stuff the biohackers did, we were doing in the early 2000s with other supplements, but it was just to get jacked. It wasn't to improve our mitochondrial density or whatever,
Awesome. So you've gone through the space, you've gone through some of the additional machines you want to get. Sorry, I know we went on another interesting tangent there. So I'm interested in clinical rotation. Obviously, it's a lot of us are enamored by Discover Strength and just how good their trainers are and how much we can learn and from them. And obviously their intent is to learn from you. And I'm just curious, how are you feeling about that? What are you excited about in terms of seeing from them and learning from them and imparting on them?
Okay, so since you said that I was gregarious, I will start off by telling you what I told David, Smart Strength's VP of Operations.
Not sure David would appreciate this. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen, but yeah. Yeah,
so I sent David. So Matt says, "Hey, I want to do a clinical rotation with you." I go, "Fantastic. Let's knock out the dates." Matt Jong. And
it's Matt. Okay.
Because we talked at Rec back in October, and he and I just had great rapport. He had a lot of great questions. And just seemed like one of those Peter Attia, for as much as we grief zone too, has a great saying where he says, "I don't want to be right. I want to know the most stuff." Right. And so knowing the most stuff means being wrong or being willing to relearn something. And so, so what I said here, let's see here. I sent him a message and I said, so Matt says that we're going to do this. I go, great. I reach out to David and I say, David, Skylar Tanner here. Matt just reached out to me about doing a clinical rotation, and I just don't know if it will be helpful for DS. I'm just going to teach him how to make incredible brisket and tacos, and I'm not sure if that's going to benefit future DS clients. And David immediately is like, we thought we'd learn a ton by spending some time with you, would help to set up a call. We really value what you do. David, we love you. This is why you're on you've got the big title. And because you take this stuff seriously and you want to make it right.
He's a professional.
He's a very professional. Yeah. I, on the other hand, just tell jokes all day long. And so that was the point I make to Matt is we're going to learn a ton. But Austin, we love hospitality. Like Southern hospitality is real. We're going to take him to some great restaurants. We're going to have the Austin experience. He's going to crush some clients. We're going to learn a lot from him because there's a bunch of ab exercises that he didn't get to do at the last rec that I was like, our trainers need to know that, and so Matt's going to do that. We're going to talk about why we do things differently than DS in some ways, but also philosophically why the core, our chewy, the peanut buttery center of our M&M is basically the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you thinking of sending out your trainers on clinical rotations? Do you think it's a good idea?
I'd like to do that. At some point, I don't know what that looks like. If that's just realistically, it's probably not a week. Realistically, something like that is just on a cost basis. It's probably going to be like a 3-day, a 3-day kind of thing. Like, all right, we're gonna send you to Owen in San Francisco. I'm going to send you out on Thursday night. Or, well, I guess he just does Friday, et cetera. So it'd probably be like Wednesday night, come back Saturday night kind of thing.
Okay.
And something like that. I would like to do that. But we got to have enough revenue, no margin, no mission.
I've not heard that one before. That's I like that. So I was looking at the website just to get a refresh on your business a bit more. And, I notice you're not taking any bookings, no more clients at this stage.
I'm not, and I actually need to update that a little bit. So, and Edwin was full time; he's taking some clients. So I have a 2+ year waiting list, and I don't mean I have just people waiting in queue ready to go. It means that I've not had any.
Will they not train with your team?
Oh no! I mean, this is what I'm saying. I have clients who already train with me once a week, are waiting for that second time to open up and become available. On my calendar, or even I've got a couple of clients who are like, Skylar, if you overtake me for a third workout, please. And I'll explain how we might do that. If you want to go into that, how we might do a third workout, even though we advertise, an hour a week. Mm-hmm. And so I have not had any availability. It's the most stable client roster of my life. And actually I tell everybody that when they've been referred to me, I say, and I got this line from Sherry McMillan, when people come in, I'm like, look, I have no availability. My waiting list is 2 years. You don't want to train with me anyway, because I also have to run the business. It's all I can do to just keep the clients I have happy. The trainer I'm going to set you up with, they are solely focused and interested on delivering a great experience for you. You're going to have a wonderful workout with them.
Go ahead.
So that's where I'm at. And Edwin, for a while, because he was really just interested, he was doing right at about 50 sessions a week. And that's about as much as he actually wants to do at right now. And then I think at some point, if the business grows to the point where we have multiple locations, we actually need like a managing team. He'd probably just upskill into being, our director of marketing or something.
What is your how many sessions you do in a week in total at the moment, if you don't mind me asking?
As a team, this is tricky because we also just absorbed Zach from a super slow facility that went out of business recently. And so I can tell you that right now that we had our best first of the month charge ever this past month. And then if I can go and dig into mind body, and that's not important, but we're doing somewhere in the neighborhood of
just approximately.
Yeah. Let me think here. I'm doing 80 sessions a week. Edwin, where he is right now, 45 sessions a week. And then Abigail on top of that, another 10. So 135, 140 sessions a week right now. Okay. Zach was doing 50 sessions a week over at the place where he was coming from. And I don't know how many of those people are coming over. And I don't know if that will fully realize, because we're coming in the summer and a lot of people, especially where we are in Austin, they'll go somewhere else for the summer. They disappear for a number of weeks in the summer. So the full realization of this sort of bloodless coup, merger without the acquisition costs, is going to not be realized until August or September. Yeah. But I fully expect that by that point, we're doing north of 150, 60 sessions a week.
Yeah. Great. Excellent.
In one location, that's, not even 1,400 square feet. And I've got a client who keeps on wanting me to open a second location. And I just point him at DS's, sort of website and I go, if we can make it look something like this, then this is, you Luke's leading from the front, but we're going to make it, let him take the bumps, and then we're going to learn from it. Just as far as the build out and the quality of the build out and the experience of being in the space, it's hard to argue with what they've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is it private? Remind me, is yours private? So there's only one? No,
it's just one-on-one. So it's always a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
We had 3 trainers and 3 clients going the other day, and my head's on a swivel, like this.
Yeah.
And this is why. So hold on here. This is a great opportunity to talk about this. In the beginning, talking with my hands. Yeah. In the beginning, when you're working in our space, we're doing pure super slow in the same order, the same build out. The progression is the same questions after every exercise, the same coaching points. Once we get to the point in which we are out of the Start Smart programming, and we're starting to diversify the routine, then I leave it up to our trainers and myself that if you're trying to keep the client in the tunnel, like they come in and they're going to boop, 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 go through their workout. If somebody is on your piece of equipment that you're going to go to, and some other trainer has it, is coming down the pipe on that piece of equipment next, you need to be quick on your feet as a trainer and go, okay, what within this category, what can I use? What can I do right now? What can I use to train them in this way right now? What that also means is that the order of the workout changes. The exercises will sometimes change based on the busyness of the floor. And so the workout itself no longer is a viable tool to measure progress workout to workout. It is a stimulus, and one that now has a little bit of variation as a function of the realities of being on a busier training floor. So this is why I like the idea of a marker workout, because if you're in a marker workout, then you're saying, I'm telling the team, I'm doing a marker workout. They all know the order of the exercises I'm going in.
It's a non-negotiable,
It's a non-negotiable. It's just the same way as I tell people, if you're doing a Start Smarter, you're doing a marker workout, I'm working around you. You have the exercises in the order that you're going through them, and I will reorganize my client's workout to accommodate that.
Yeah.
The trainers get the big iPad, I get the small iPad or my phone. It's like I'm trying to background myself as much as possible. In marketing, I'm trying to make it about our incredible team. I'm not trying to make it the Skylar show with the 1,000 helpers. Even if I'm still full, I want them to have an environment that is conducive to maximizing their skill set and delivering a great experience for their clients as they build up their client load.
Yeah. And just to give the listeners some view on revenues, what's the price point per session?
$67 a session is right out. So people are either buying 4 sessions a month or 8 sessions a month. Sessions expire at the end of the month. Just keep skin in the game. You can train with any one of our trainers, even though you'll have a head coach. So it's kind of like blending the traditional personal training with kind of the way DS does it. In that if you need to reschedule, you're going to reschedule and I can put you on Zach's schedule or Abigail's schedule or whoever's schedule. We're going to do that. And actually, speaking of that, okay, it's 10 o'clock. That's that. Let me see. There's one thing while I'm thinking about this now, because
that's okay.
Well, I'm thinking about the Slack because I dropped some people on Abigail's schedule here. Let's see. Sure, I can take her. Let's see here. Kate had COVID, so she's out all week trying to cancel her from the at Marissa. Let's see here. I'll message her here. At Abigail. Fine. This is literally like in real time. This is why
while you're doing that. While Scott's doing that, I'll just say, just if anyone's interested, and apologies for plugging the membership again, but Scholar there was talking about the importance of how do you manage exercise order when you've got multiple trainers training multiple clients, and Luke recorded just a tremendous podcast on this in the membership, something like how to generate maximum profit out of your machine lines or something like that, where he's like really clear filters, like these are the rules that we follow when running a client for a workout, when we've got multiple sessions going at the same time and a machine's taken, which is like your next machine. Like he has rules about, can you do...
We do too. Yep.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Right. So like you can do upper body and lower body in any order. You just have to do the upper body in the same order, meaning if you've got chest press row, whatever tricep extension, you can keep that order so long as you can still put leg exercises in between as long as you keep that order. So like rules like that, for example, in order to provide a little bit more flexibility to enable that, a smooth workflow basically. So you can go to highintensitybusiness.com/membership to get access to that and lots of stuff. So,
right. Yeah. And that's actually why I like the idea of a marker workout, because like I said, because if you're keeping this client experience consistent, you're not going to be able to, and you have to switch the order. You have to accommodate everybody on the floor. Yeah. Exercise is going to change. And I haven't been I'm not as worried about showing progress workout to workout within a program, right? Within a 12-week block, because of that, number one. Yeah. Because if all of a sudden you've got to move the chest press around in relationship to the exercise that came before it, your performance is going to be different. I'm less concerned about the number, and we've talked about that in previous podcasts. As long as we're getting close to fatigue, the stimulus is happening. I want to see that. I want to see that number progress over time, and we are much more, like I said, I'm not interested in driving the Rubicon of fatigue. I'm much more interested in micro loading a weight and like seeing strength go up over time, because it's in the name, smart strength. Yeah. Hypertrophy, at the end of the day, I'm not much bigger than I was 10 years ago, even though I've spent a lot of mental resources trying to figure out how to hack that. Luke, I love you. You're not either. James Fisher, I love you. You're not either. And it's not at the only thing that grows to infinity is cancer. And that, like Mike Bradley said with the athletes, you're going to see it real early. I gained most of the size I got from strength training real early on. And actually, I was reading about this. Dave, I have to, when you have the gift shows up real early. What is his name? Dave. I did the 7-year itch all those years ago to try and quantify it a little bit more. But
yeah, that was a great post.
There's this Mr. Olympia whose name I'm forgetting.
Draper.
No, not Draper. No, but yes, I know Draper. No, this is a more recent one. This was after Dorian Yates, and after Ronnie Coleman. It was the next guy. And he was a basketball player at the University of Denver in college.
Oh, Phil Heath, are you talking about?
Heath, thank you. Yeah. And he looked muscular then. And then he ended up fooling around with some power lifters that he just came across. And within like 2.5 months, he was stronger and bigger than any of them. Like it was just he had the gift, obviously. Yeah. And so it showed up real early on, as soon as he started deliberately working on this stuff. And then he obviously took it to multiple Mr. Olympias. So my focus is not on, I think Mike Bradley said, he spent the first 30 years of his training career trying to get as big and strong as possible. And now he's trying to get, trying to be as strong and lean as possible. Yeah. And yes, you can go into it about co-contraction and acquired ability and blah, 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 blah. But, at the end of the day, if you are training on a consistent enough basis, there's nobody out there who's bench pressing 400 pounds. I'm just pulling a number out of my ass, who's like 100 pounds. And if they are, it's because their arms are this short.
Yeah.
Right. So there's there's a relationship. It could be a very weak one, as Jeremy Lowenecki will talk about, between strength and muscularity. And then you also have what Mike Gittleson talked about back in 2008, where Keith Barr, who's at the University of Davis, talked about what we used to think was just being really well wired was a really integrated musculotendinous junction. And I like to think, on a dad strength basis, that my dad's not very good at lifting weights. When he was training, he trains the Planet Fitness, and he's better than he was, and his health is good. But he could always like wrestle an engine block out of the car and get it to the front yard to like clean it off. I couldn't do that, and yet I could lift more weight than him. So I wonder if some of that is just as we age, you have this increased integration of the musculotendinous junction. And that was Gittleson's point from that presentation all those years ago, was that stretching is about maintaining sort of this mid-range where the tendon doesn't creep so deeply into the muscle that you lose the pliability and flexibility at the expense of sort of brute force strength and sort of automatic structural integrity. This is, and then Keith Barr showed some stretches that he thought were like helpful as far as maintaining that pliability as
total random tangent, but you got me thinking about this because I've been talking about it to people recently. How do you feel about TRT?
TRT is in testosterone replacement therapy.
Yeah. So there's obviously a lot of talk about it recently in our little WhatsApp group. And I've had a good friend of mine who's been public about it, so I can say his name. That's Scott Myslinski, who's just packed on like serious amount of weight. I mean,
yes,
from
because,
like 100,
hold on, wait
Go
a
ahead.
second. Let me step back here. TRT, let's remind all the viewers at home, that's doing steroids. And I'm not saying that in a judgment call, but you see, it's a very white collar. It's a class washing.
Yeah,
it's a oh, I'm doing TRT for longevity. I'm doing it. First of all, we have lots of lifelong steroid users who aren't living longer than average. So whatever theoretical first principles way in which some physician is arguing that you should take 200 milligrams of test depot a week, and that's a small dose, and you're going to just go to the upper end of the range. The outcome study of interest, we don't have it. We have outcomes that, more lean tissue and more strength lead to better all-cause mortality outcomes. But that is in a sample that is a population sample. Those people aren't taking exogenous testosterone. And there's something to be said where for whatever reason, it seems like exogenous testosterone, even though it's testosterone, at a given dose, getting you to a certain point in the distribution, seems to be more anabolic than just being at that amount of testosterone to begin with, because that amount of testosterone your body naturally has. And I say this is why on my next visit to my GP, I'm going to get a testosterone, like a number, a free testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, these sorts of things, because you could be in a normal range, but you're up at the upper limit. So if all of a sudden your number starts to track down to the middle, your GP actually has a point in history with you individually saying, "Hey, you used to be on the upper. Let's try to get you back there." You're going to feel more like yourself, versus somebody who was always at the upper end of the limit. They come down to the normal end of the limit, and they go, and the doctor's like, "You're fine. You're in the normal limit." They go, "I feel terrible," because your normal testosterone was on the high end of the population average or the population bell curve within the diaspora of the rest of your physiology, right? So when all of a sudden you're adding 200 milligrams of testosterone to get you to the top of the the normal distribution curve, yes, you don't have as much as Phil Heath as far as the amount of testosterone you're adding to your body, but it's still far more than you had in relationship to all of the other hormones in your body. And it seems to be more anabolic as a result of that. So Mike, because he's been very public about it, and he messaged me years and years ago about being like early osteoporosis.
This is Scott, you mean? Sorry.
Scott, I'm sorry. Yes, Scott.
Yeah. That's right.
About have osteoporosis like at a really young age, and really having sarcopenia from being in a sport of rowing, which prioritizes having the lightest chassis possible for a given power output, and then it rewards poor eating behaviors. So people will see Mike and they'll go, Scott, excuse me. They'll see Scott and they'll go, it's that carnivore diet. It's moving away from HIIT. And I go, it's supplemental testosterone. I cannot express this enough to you. Give elderly people testosterone and nothing else, and they'll put on 5 to 7 kilos.
Wow. Yeah.
Nothing else. They've done no strength training whatsoever. It is that powerful, that anabolic. So carnivore diet, whatever. Testosterone. It was always the testosterone. And I'm glad he's continued to train through it. Not Dave Draper. Was it Dave Draper? It might be Dave Draper, who said he's the Ohio bald powerlifter, right? Who Elite FTS, I think is his.
I wouldn't know. Yeah,
it's not Dave. That might not be Dave Draper.
Dave Draper was a bodybuilder, wasn't he?
No, was that the Blonde Bomber? Was that?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that was Blonde Bomber. Okay, this is Dave. He's a powerlifter out of Ohio. Has a company called EliteFTS.com, and they build a bunch of equipment.
Okay,
and he had a great line. That is, whatever level you have to take whatever level you have to do drugs, the next level you're going to be an also ran. So if you're a high school football player and you got to take testosterone, you're just going to be on the bench in college. But that I can't stress enough. Anybody who says testosterone doesn't work is just ignoring the literature. They haven't looked at it. It is incredibly powerful. These people who are these elderly individuals who are getting testosterone, they're not getting 2 linebackers worth of testosterone. They're getting, and so it's amazing. People at rec openly talking about do TRT and then they're also trying to sell you on the efficacy of their training system or their tool or their machine. And I'm just like, it's the TRT. It's the TRT. It's always what it was. And I'm not
obviously the resistance
training,
the resistance training in the diet enhances the response.
100%.
Obviously.
100%.
So,
but it just allows you to recover faster. So it's like you're not only more anabolic, but you're able to train more.
I'm just curious as well. Does it enable you to partition more calories? Like if you overeat extreme, a lot, does it allow you to partition more calories into muscle tissue that otherwise would be stored as fat or wasted or whatever? Do you know that?
The argument that, well, probably not as much, but then a lot of bodybuilders for a while there, I don't know if I don't pay attention to bodybuilding anymore, but for a while there, they'd also supplement with insulin because they were trying to like hammer the nutrition into their muscles. Lee Priest gets fat in the there's a joke if you go back and look at all these old Muscle Tech ads, which is great because Jay Vincent did some Muscle Tech modeling, but there'd always be these old ads with Lee Priest, who was this like 5'3" Australian bodybuilder, real muscular dude, and they'd have him in the off season as if the Muscle Tech supplements made him ripped, and he's just he's like the off season like power lifter dad bod du jour, even though he's on a lot of anabolics. So maybe, but there's a limit. Right. And then if you're more muscular anyway, you've got more storage capacity. So that's also contributing. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So what about yourself? Would you consider taking it at some point?
Look, what in my early 20s, we had we could go to we could go GNC and buy VPX, had one testosterone, and it came with a syringe.
Wow.
So remember, Patrick Arnold invents 4AD, which is a pro hormone. You could buy it as a like DMSO kind of gel, the same way you buy TRT. You can buy testo gel and you rub it on here or here, and it absorbs into the skin, and through a chemical process in the body would result in increasing your testosterone. And that was quite anabolic. And then he just went one further, and he didn't invent one testosterone, but when people think about steroids are illegal, what it actually means is these steroids that were most effective and used by the bodybuilders in the 60s and 70s are illegal. There were a bunch of other steroids that just weren't as effective that weren't outlawed. And one testosterone was one of them. Like it's been so long since I've had biochemistry. I think it was a stereoisomer of testosterone, but don't quote me. Don't at me. But it was an anabolic hormone. You could like Dianabol, and Patrick Arnold came out with it. Like you could buy it. So you could buy the pill and methyl 1 testosterone. So it's methylated. You couldn't take too much, your liver would hate you. Or you could go to GNC and buy a VPX product that was 1 testosterone with a syringe. People were injecting themselves as a supplement from GNC. And let me tell you, 4AD and 1 testosterone, very powerful stuff. You're going to put on a lot of water. You gained a lot of strength, and it resulted in some amount of extra lean tissue. But then you have to start asking the longevity question, which is what I started with, which is
this is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Right. Which is Arnold stopped the steroids a long time ago. I mean, as far as we know, maybe he's on really low doses of 1 testosterone, but not the amount that bodybuilders are on, right? And he's still not to the like normal limit of longevity. Clarence Bass has documented extensively his steroid use for the 6 to 12 months he was using steroids in his early 40s. He's 85 now. Yeah. And he just is like, look, yes, I got some extra lean tissue. I was already a Mr. America. I didn't like the side effects, and so it wasn't like
what kind of side effects?
Water retention, irritability, because at the end of the day, testosterone
is it the same as roid rage? Is that synonymous with that?
But it just makes you more of what you already are.
Right. I know very little about this.
This is what I'm explaining right now. Testosterone has 2 functions: fuck it or kill it. That's it. And they run real close together. You have some of the highest recorded sort of natural testosterone levels in prison populations for good reason. And so if you're normally mild-mannered and all of a sudden, because remember, testosterone is mostly being taken by white-collar individuals because they can afford it, because you can't just sporadically take it. You have to be on it.
Yeah, and then you've done, and then you're on it for good, pretty much, right? Because you can't produce it exogenously. No, endogenously.
Yeah. I mean, endogenously, right? I mean, so it depends on the dose. It depends on. This is why the testicles shrink, because your brain's like, cool, you're getting it from somewhere else. Adios.
Yeah, sure.
But you fuck it. So if you're a normally mild-mannered dude, all of a sudden traffic's going to irritate you. But if you were already an asshole, if you already were the bro in the gym who's already a piece of work, and you take testosterone, then you're that guy.
Wow.
Then you're that roid rage guy. It just makes you the worst version. And there's a great This American Life from 12 years ago that an old girlfriend of mine introduced me to. This American Life is a radio show, NPR here in the States. They had one about testosterone. And it's fascinating because one was about this man who, for whatever medical reasons, he had no testosterone whatsoever. Like suddenly he had no testosterone, and about his experience with that. There was some third story, and then about a man who had transitioned from being a woman, and about like what the testosterone was doing in their body, and the experience of like seeing an ankle and all of a sudden being flooded with pornographic imagery and
Wow.
and things of that nature. Like all of us raising we were 15-year-old boys once too. I remember when that was just like, hey, that girl's ankle. Oh God, focus, Skylar, get your head together. And it was through no fault of your own because that's testosterone, right? And so yeah, that's my rant about testosterone. I'm not going to take testosterone unless I really need it. And actually, Clarence Bass is very funny because he's gone to the Cooper Clinic every year for so long. In one of his recent, I think it was like 80, maybe a 79, 80 or 81, somewhere in that range. He had his highest recorded testosterone level ever.
Any exogenous testosterone?
No, not something.
Just being healthy lifestyle.
You go on you could go on and just see. He'll tell you what he's on. He's on some sort of beta blocker. No, not a beta blocker. He had an ablation recently in his heart, so he had. So I think he was on on some sort of rhythm control drug before that happened. He's on a small statin. I think he takes fish oil. But yeah, I mean, he talks about all that. Clarence has always been very candid.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, because I don't want to be on this stuff forever. Right?
Is it also because of risks, maybe cancer growth, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, for me and my family history of cancer, it's a better hedge. And again, we don't have that outcome of like, all right, let's put guys on testosterone for 30 years and see who gets cancer more.
Right. We just don't. So we don't have the data on any of this stuff. We don't know.
It's all principled and sort of bench science to make this guess. Which is what Dr. Spencer Nadolsky, who's he calls himself. Oh, he's great. Go on his Instagram. He calls himself the chief memeologist because he communicates in memes. His residency was in family medicine. His fellowship is in obesity and lipidology, and he's very critical of some of these sort of like longevity doctors because they're making a mechanistic argument, but they don't have the actual outcome nature piece that they're talking about, which is what I say. So I've given you here's my sales pitch. Ready? I want to be out of breath. I want to be weaker and out of breath more often, said nobody ever. But what they have said is, I'd like to be stronger and fitter, but I just don't have the time. At Smart Strength, our team of experienced exercise physiologists will help you look better, feel better, and perform better in about an hour a week. You've got time for that, right? Because, and that's the end of the pitch before the because.
Beautiful.
We work upstream of medicine, and with the two big levers that we can pull, strength and lean muscle mass, cardiovascular capacity as measured by VO2, not mitochondrial efficiency and all these stuff. When you look at these big population studies, people with more muscle mass and are stronger tend to have better all-cause mortality, lower relative risk. People who have the highest VO2s, within a population average, not like 90, not like Lance Armstrong at his peak, 90 VO2, within the population norms, have the lowest relative risk and the highest, the best all-cause mortality. So I'm looking within my programming, I'm looking to optimize that within an hour a week or maximize that. That's why I have a Carol bike, because resistant sprints on a bike really drive VO2 or augment or prioritize VO2 development. It doesn't cannibalize or have the concurrent effect with resistance training by tamping down resistance training improvements. And I also focus on performance and looking to increase the weight over time with a client rather than just destroying them with failure, because it doesn't seem to be that, and McGuff has talked about this, that all the studies that we use for our evidence-based practitioners with a high intensity training model is not done with impeccable form. It's done with garbage form, right? And so all the people who are making form-based arguments, like Al Coleman, I love him. And I've used his idea of, and because I'm FMS certified and I had all the motor learning already, so I understood it. But it was one of those things where it was his take on it was interesting, that The moment you change the spinal position, you are changing the muscles that can be involved in that movement if the machine is engineered well. And then you're done. That's task failure, right? If you go from doing a chest press to trying to do this with the chest press, you're trying to turn it into a garbage shoulder press because you're so tired that the muscles that the machine is intending to train are out. They're done. So you're seeking something else, and that's task failure, right? You've stimulated. You can recruit no more fibers. You cannot upcode their rate of contraction anymore. That's it. And now think about this. This is a chest press. This is an overhead press. This is a dip. My spine is in the same place. Here I am with my arms in the middle. I'm going to change my spine. Well, that's an overhead press. That's a dip, right? So we tend to think about the plane of movement by where our hands are moving through. But Al's point, it's a good one, is if your hands were fixed and you're changing your spine, you're doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and often what happens when people go to fatigue and then they're going to do reps past fatigue or whatever, there is no study that I am aware of that demonstrates that actually results in anything substantial or improved above just getting the fatigue. So we focus on that for the longevity's sake. And if we do that, then we're going to prioritize to the extent that the client can get strength, certainly, and lean tissue to the extent that their lifestyle, age, and strength allow. And then we use the Carol bike sprints to augment VO2 just a little bit more because it's 8 minutes extra in the workout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Love that. We'll definitely have to talk more about, what holistic kind of health and fitness looks like another day, and get your latest thoughts on that. Like I did with Bryce that time when we talked about is HIIT all you need, and he talks about a bunch of stuff. Yeah. But I'm just conscious of time, and I've got to look after my son, so we're going to need to wrap that one up there. But before we do, how can people find out more about you, Skylar?
You can email me, Skyler, Skyler, at smartstrengthaustin.com. It's one word, no hyphens. And I'm not on Twitter. We're not on Facebook. I'm sure there's a Smart Strength Facebook page somewhere because we paid the marketers to do that all those years ago, but we don't touch it. We do have an Instagram account, which is, I think it's at Smart Strength Austin. You can just look, or actually go to Discover Strength and then look at the followers. You'll find us. I'm sure you'll find us there, right? You'll find the one, and and my Instagram account is private. I don't, if you're following me on Instagram, it's because I let you follow me on Instagram.
Fair enough.
So go to the gym account. Yeah.
All right. And if everyone listening, to find the blog post for this episode and download the PDF transcript, if you prefer to read it back, or I don't know why. I think people are more inclined to listen to your charming voice again, Skylar. Please go to highintensitybusiness.com, search for episode 365. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.